Here for your questions. Here for your needs. Here to help make your purchasing experience one that works for you. The vehicle for you, the experience for you, the team for you. Deary Ford Lincoln of Iowa City, here for you. Find the vehicle for you at DearyFord.com.
Terry Brothers Ford Lincoln, 2343 Mormon Trek Boulevard, Iowa City.
Gaspy's BP Gas Station and Convenience Store, located at 1 Hawkeye Drive in North Liberty, is a family-owned and full-service drive-thru that features anything you need. Dollar tacos every Tuesday. Saturdays and Sundays, try Gaspy's 8-piece dark chicken or tender chicken fingers for only $8. Gaspy's also offers lottery tickets, snacks, ice-cold beverages, and, of course, gasoline for your means of transportation. Online at GaspysCstores.com and visit them on Facebook. Brave the road construction to help support a family-owned business. Gaspy's BP Gas Station. Convenience is their business 24 hours a day.
You ever wonder why some hamburgers in a restaurant taste so great and others are just okay? At Monica's, we buy our blend of ground meat from a local butcher. It's never frozen and is a blend of 3 cuts, custom chosen to be more flavorful and tender. Then it's hand-patted, grilled, and presented on a great fresh bun. At Monica's, we have created 95 menu items, and all are designed and made with integrity and sincerity so that you'll keep coming back. There are no shortcuts to consistent quality. Come try us.
Continuing education just got tastier at the Bread Garden Market, where you're invited to join your friends and explore the world of wine and cheese. They'll walk you through at least 8 wines and 4 cheeses. You'll learn the different flavors, aromas, backgrounds, technicalities, and food pairings for each selection. These once-a-month sessions are just $20 per gathering, or get 3 sessions for just $50. Stop by the bar for more details and meet me at the market. The next wine and cheese session, Most Common Grapes Part 1, is Thursday, October 18th from 6 to 7:30 p.m.
From the Harty and Stalker Studios in the heart of the Hawkeye Nation, this is the mighty 1630 KCJJ, Iowa City.
Here is your KCJJ forecast today. Mostly cloudy with scattered showers and thunderstorms. Our high right around 80 this afternoon. The wind out of the south at 5 to 15. Tonight, scattered showers and thunderstorms 65. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. High tomorrow 78. There could be an isolated strong to severe storm today. A better chance of severe storms tomorrow with some heavy rain possible as we head into tomorrow night. Stay tuned for updates. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. Currently, it's 66.
Weather brought to you by the Westport Touchless Auto Washes. We are under a flash flood warning for southeast Iowa City. A flash flood warning. Southeast Johnson County, actually. Flash flood warning till 1:30 today. We're under a flash flood watch for all of eastern Iowa until tomorrow afternoon. AllHawkeyes.com, brought to you by Big Dog TV and Internet, serving all of eastern Iowa with Dish, DirecTV, Internet, and more. Don't call an 800 number. Call local. Call Kevin and his crew at Big Dog, 338-6600. Premier Automotive in North Liberty. Hit a deer. Call Premier. Steve Anderson, Hawkeye Title and Settlement. Zephyr's Printing and Design in Printed Ink on the Ped Mall. The Ox Yoke Inn in the Amanas. GT Car and his crew at Supple Siding and Remodeling. Sittler's LED Supplies. And Supple's family, the Supple family, Supple's Flowers, though, 1-800-800-ROSE.
Yeah.
Joining Pat Harty from AllHawkeyes.com and Mr. Suter, we've got Coach Don Patterson online.
Morning, Coach.
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Pat.
Hi, Don. How you doing?
Doing well. How about you?
Well, after a strange and long weekend up in Minneapolis, the game was a lot of fun, and I didn't think it would be as high scoring as it was, but I never felt like Iowa was going to lose that game, even when it got down to 7 in the third. Iowa just felt and looked like the better team. Don, just your overall thoughts. Did the game go as you thought, or what'd you think?
Yeah, I think it went much like I thought it would, and we saw a lot of good signs on our part. One of the things that comes to mind is what you suggested. We showed really good resiliency, and that when they made a run at us, we always were able to answer. That's a good sign that you can go on the road and play with poise and not get a little bit spooked just because the other team makes a run at you. So that was good to see. It was good to see us start fast. We were up 14-0 after our first 2 possessions. And meanwhile, the Gophers were 3 and out on their first 2.
Yeah, I thought that was key. I thought they had to, not that there was much of a crowd there to take out, but on the road like that, we've seen that happen before where they fall behind and they're forced to play catch-up. And, Don, it just looked like Minnesota was begging them to throw the ball. They didn't want to. They were loading the box, and Iowa did. I mean, they did. They took advantage. Nate had his third 300-yard passing game as a Hawkeye.
Yeah, exactly. That was a disappointment that we couldn't run the ball with better consistency.
Yeah.
And honestly, Pat, it wasn't because they always loaded the box.
No, not always.
Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. But on the good side of things, we did a really nice job of spreading the ball around in the passing game. That first drive, we had 5 completions to 5 different receivers. The outside receiver stepped up. The wide receivers did. The backs did a good job of catching the ball. Nate did a good job a couple of times of throwing hot when he needed to a back. It was a good sign. On that second drive, Nate avoids a sack. He steps up in the pocket, but he still looks to throw downfield.
Exactly.
And the result, of course, was a 60-yard touchdown to Smith-Marset. That's the kind of stuff that the Penn State quarterback does a good job of. You know, even though he's approaching the line of scrimmage, and even though he's a very good runner, he's still looking to throw.
Well,
and Nate, I bet when he let go of the ball, he was probably within a yard or 2 of the line of scrimmage. He was pretty close to being across the line, but not quite. And he certainly knew where he was on the field.
Well, the receivers entered Saturday's game with 24 catches and 1 touchdown in the first 4 games. Saturday they had 6, 5, and 3. Saturday they had 14 catches and 2 touchdowns. What was interesting, we talked to Amir. The play where Nate scrambled and had to buy a bunch of time, Amir said he knew they were going to be in cover, some type of cover 2 because of the way the cornerback lined up. He changed his hips and what have you. You could tell that he's starting to understand the position. He also he said he had to be patient. He knew it was going to be open if he just didn't panic and just trusted his route. And then eventually he knew Nate would see him, and he said Nate was able to buy time. It was just interesting. Amir, I asked him, I go, could you have done that last year? He goes, probably, maybe, but he goes, I'm so much more confident now, and I trust what's going on around me. It was just neat to listen to him. You can see he's growing up. But, Don, would you agree now? The receivers just have to start. They don't have to do 14 catches every game, but now the key is to try to sustain some type of productivity because right now they're just too inconsistent.
Right. We still had a drop or 2 in there, but I think we're doing better with those outside receivers and their ability to get open and catch the ball. That was a good sign. The catch of the day, of course, has to go to Brandon Smith. That was a wonderful catch on the fade route.
Yeah, it was.
Just amazing.
That D-back was all over him. He was draped all over him. He still showed a lot of strength on that catch.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite declined penalties is when you've caught a long pass. They get flagged for pass interference, and you still say, no, I think we'll just take the game. We appreciate the flag, but we don't need it. That was good to see. On defense, I think we did a really nice job of defending the run. We did a really nice job of pressuring the passer. Their right tackle in particular struggled. Anthony Nelson, it was really a clinic on how to pass rush Anthony Nelson versus that right tackle. They predictably went after our freshman corners, and they had early success, especially against Riley Moss. But really, as the game played out, I thought our corners played better and better. As you know, we ended up with 4 interceptions, 3 of which were by those 2 freshman corners.
Yeah, they persevered. They really did. I mean, and I give Minnesota credit because they were. I mean, Riley gave up some catches. I mean, that first half, they were schooling him, but he adjusted and was holding his own by the end of that game.
And visibly got better as the game went on, and even I could see it. It was a maturation right in front of your eyes.
Don, what concerns you the most about what you saw Saturday?
Well, I guess the inability to run the ball concerns me. Because some teams, if they're able to go with a light box, if they don't have extra defenders near the line of scrimmage, and they can hold up with their run defense, that concerns me a little bit. If they can play various zone coverages and still hold up against the run, I don't think Indiana will be able to do that. I think Penn State might. Penn State's strength is still their offense versus their defense. They gave up a lot of yards. They give up a lot of yards most weekends. So I don't know that anybody can do that to us, can just go with a standard defensive front and dare us to run the ball. Maybe no one can do that to us, we hope. But that's a concern, that we need to run the ball with greater consistency. We had second and medium any number of times and then got hit in the head on second and medium. for no gain or minus yardage, it seemed. Let me mention one of my favorite plays in the game. We're up 14-7. We're down on the goal line, and we fail. And then we run hooky and score another touchdown. It reminds me, I want to take you back in time. I flashed back to our Illinois game in 1990. We're up 28-7 in that game after 4 possessions. Illinois had a great defense.
Yep.
They finally stop us, and then we probably run a fake field goal for another touchdown to make 35-7. The final score was 54-28. But the point is, Coach Fry called that play when no one expected it. I was surprised myself when he called it. We'd scored 4 touchdowns on 4 possessions, and a field goal still seemed to be pretty nice. But he just thought it was the right time, and I'm sure that's exactly what Kirk felt. This is the right time. They won't expect it. That's the only time to run fake field goals when they don't expect it. If they expect it, then what's the point?
Well, it wasn't easy. Jackson Suter had to make a tough lateral snap. That snap's not easy, what he did.
That's true. And, of course, if we'd have been on the right hash mark, I don't know if we would have scored on it. I think the ball was toward the middle of the field.
He needed every bit of that field to get to the corner of the end zone. You're right.
Yeah, just inside the power line. So well executed. I'm sure we practiced it a lot. So that was good to see. We weren't just sitting on our lead. We could have kicked the field goal, and everybody would have been satisfied, I guess, with that outcome. But better yet, let's get a touchdown and let's take the air out of their balloon.
I thought that was as aggressive a play calling as they've had in all my years of watching Kirk Ferentz. And this is just my theory on this. Don, you may not agree, and Kirk would never say this. I think Kirk wants to beat P.J. Fleck as bad or worse than any other coach out there to kind of put him in his place. And I mean, trying to pass with a minute left in the first half, that's not Iowa football. I didn't mind it, even though Nate made a horrible decision to throw the ball. And then throwing that ball to Hawkinson at the end when they're up by 10. I mean, it just seemed like Kirk had the foot on the gas. But, Don, I want to ask you one thing. You've called plays and what have you. Why do they keep running to the short end of the field with the box? There were so many plays Saturday where Minnesota was loading the box, and Iowa ran a stretch read zone run play with a running back to the short end of the field. What is the reward in that? Because it just never seems to work because there's nowhere to run.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what their thought process is there. And as you mentioned, we did make some mistakes on offense. Let me just touch on a couple that we're going to learn from. We're up 28-10 with a little over a minute left in the half. We call naked. My recommendation to Brian would be, at that point, go ahead and take the ball out of the quarterback's hands. Just run the ball. We're up 18. 17 is we always talk about 17 being the magic number. If we're up 18, they got to score 3 times. Let's just not do anything stupid here before the half. We call naked, and that's an okay call. It's a pretty safe pass, except for the fact that Nate, for some odd reason, decided to go ahead and throw the ball anyway.
Into triple coverage.
And, of course, that sets up a quick, short touchdown. And now our lead's only 11 at the half when it should have been 17.
Yeah, Minnesota had the momentum going into halftime.
Should have been 18, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My thoughts on the short side stretch play, isn't it simply a case of there's fewer defenders on the short side and they feel they got a better chance that way, or is that too simplistic?
No, you're right. In general, the numbers are okay. You're just looking for how many players, just imagine splitting the field in half right down through the football before it snaps. And if your numbers are good on the short side, as you say, if you got as many blockers as they have defenders, if you can realistically get all those first defenders blocked with whatever alignment. We always talk about not running the ball weak versus 4 weak. That means 4 defenders weak when we only have 3 blockers. So in general, the numbers are on our side, or we wouldn't be running it in there. Mm-hmm. And the negatives, of course, the boundary will never miss a tackle.
There's nowhere to go.
You've only got limited space to run to begin with, and then obviously you still got to execute the blocks. There's no guarantee you're going to be able to make yards. Depends on how those blockers match up against the tacklers.
Well, Don, it seems like, from my perspective, the goal would be to kind of push the defenders out, and eventually you want the running back to, at some point, cut up before he gets to the boundary. But it just seems like the play never develops, and the running back just keeps going to the side, and eventually just runs out of room. And it takes so long. They're not fast developing plays. It's kind of that patient to where some of those linebackers that weren't on that side, by the time the play gets to the line of scrimmage, linebackers from the other side of the field are almost over there to make. It just reminds me of trying to run in a phone booth. I mean, it happened so many times on Saturday, and I'm like, it's not going to work, and it wouldn't work. Now, sometimes it does work, but I don't have stats on how often. Don, if you were to guess, how often would you say running to the short side of the field works? If you were to guess, it's unique to each team, but what kind of percentage would you give it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It depends on who we're playing, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The percentage Saturday was not great. I'll say that. It could have been better. But there's a lot that goes into play calling.
No, I understand.
We don't know about individual matchups. We don't know about injuries and things like that.
Exactly.
So, I would defer to Brian. Brian knows a lot more than we do.
And I didn't write about this.
Matchups.
Yeah, I didn't write about this. This is just good for radio discussion. I mean, it's just they obviously know more. The one encouraging thing to me, Don, it just seemed like whenever they threw the ball, Iowa had at least one receiver who was open. Just always open. That's their passing attack looked pretty explosive and complex on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that Minnesota's pass defense is suspect. They didn't have great pass rush against us. We did a good job of keeping Nate clean. But we're going to run into other teams that are going to be more difficult to convert on third and long against. We got in third and long. Overall, we converted well on critical downs, and any number of those were third and long. We're going to run into stiffer defenses up ahead that'll require a little better execution, a little better play calling too, maybe, to be able to get us over the hump in some of those long yardage situations. Let me mention another mistake that Nate made, and I'm sure it's going to be corrected. He fumbles a snap. We're up by I think maybe 17 or 18 at the time, but he makes matters worse by throwing the ball backward to a receiver that was out wide. The only reason to throw the ball backwards is to set up a double pass. And it worked out okay. We fielded the ball and we got tackled for a short loss, I think. But the worst case scenario, of course, even if you make a good backward pass, it's still got to be fielded cleanly. If not, it's a ball on the ground. It's a live ball. And the point is he could have just fallen on the ball. We were already in field goal range. The -3 on the fumble snap would not have hurt us. Or I guess he could pick it up and try to run up in the line and just protect the ball and maybe get back to the line of scrimmage. But I think he made matters worse by throwing it backwards. I wouldn't recommend doing that. And incidentally, we weren't the only ones that made a few mistakes. Here's a mistake by Minnesota. They should have made us punt at the end of the half. They could have used a timeout with maybe 15 seconds left and forced us to punt.
Yeah.
And to those that say, well, what's the point? They make us punt and we punt the ball, and now the half's over. Well, let's think back to versus Michigan years ago. I remember vividly screaming out to take a timeout at the end of the half versus Michigan, and I admit all I was thinking, they were backed up. All I was thinking was possibility of us blocking the punt. You probably remember what happened. We did not block the punt, but Tim Dwight fielded the punt and ran through the entire Michigan team for a touchdown.
I remember that.
With no time on the clock. And then more recently, let's think back to Michigan versus Michigan State just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, Michigan's punter did not understand if you muff the snap for whatever reason, just fall on the ball. Don't try to punt the ball late. And, of course, you remember what happened. Michigan State scores.
Good point.
Again, I think with no time on the clock. So those are the kind of things that we can learn from. Minnesota did not force us to punt. In that same situation, I would hope that we would force our opponents to punt by taking a timeout. And maybe they get the ball away cleanly on the punt. We still don't have to field it. Mm-hmm. If they kill it on the 1 yard line, who cares? Because the half's going to end anyway with us, sneaking the ball one time off the one. And that's the worst case scenario if they kill it on the one. The odds, who knows? Maybe we return it for a touchdown. Maybe we block the punt. Maybe the snap goes over his head. There are all kinds of scenarios that would work in our favor just by making them punt at the end of the half.
Donnie, I have a question for you. Of course, our tight ends have been one of the strongest parts of our offense this season, of our team this season. TJ had a wonderful game. Noah Fant had a touchdown as well. But his snap count is extremely low comparatively. Do you have any insight on that at all?
No, I don't. And I honestly, when I watch the game, I don't really chart how many snaps Noah has versus.
That's the big thing this year. That's the big thing this year with Fant, and people on the message boards are obsessing over Fant and AJ Epinessa's snap count. This is message board stuff. I don't think there's much to it, but Noah's not in there on plays where Noah has to. I mean, I don't think it's that complicated. He doesn't block.
Is it a blocking issue?
I think that's part of it because lots of plays where he's not in, they run. So I would think that's part of it. I mean, but no, there's a big conspiracy thing out there on the message boards that Kirk doesn't play. I mean, it's just a bunch of crap.
Well, I didn't say that.
I'm not
Mr.
saying
Harty?
you said it, but that's what's out there, and that's probably what you've been reading because that's all over Twitter and it's all over the message boards. In other words, the best players aren't playing. That stuff again.
Well, I would defer. The thing I used to always tell parents when I was a head coach, if a parent came to me and said, "I don't understand why Johnny's not playing more," I would say, "Well, you're disadvantaged because you don't get to watch him in practice every day like we do. So obviously if you practice better, you'll play more. And because typically better practice players end up playing better in games too. So I would simply tell the fans that the coaches have a better idea of how to distribute the snaps than anyone else. They've watched them in practice. They know about injuries. They know about individual strengths and weaknesses. They know who matches up better in situations, one tight end versus the other tight end. Sometimes it's just a question of fatigue, that one player's a little bit gassed and needs a blow. But the bottom line is those coaches spend a lot of time figuring out who deserves more snaps, who deserves less. And I think in almost every case, they know better than anyone else.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And if Stanley throws a better pass to Noah on that seam route that could have been like a 70-yard touchdown. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's near this discussion.
He threw it behind him. I don't know what the wind was doing. I wondered if there maybe was a crosswind on that play because the throw was not as accurate as Nate's throws typically are. But you're right. That could have been a big gainer down the seam. We simply didn't make a very accurate throw.
And I like the fact that they're rotating. And they explained it. They want A.J. Espinosa to be fresh so he can do what he does best, which is pressure the quarterback. And I thought Parker Hesse and Anthony Nelson played incredibly well on. Parker Hesse made some of the best. He made a play where he just made the entire play by himself. He shed a block, and then they threw that screen pass early in the first quarter, and he made the tackle. It's a lot of this snap count stuff, that's the new obsession, though. Media people are doing it. I mean, they're counting the snap counts, and then people are using that. And I don't know. I think Noah Fant, if he catches that first pass in the season opener that leads to what would have been a 70-yard touchdown, he catches that pass yesterday, his stats look even more incredible. Mm-hmm. And I think part of that is just the fact that he's not getting the same stats that he got last year. But I also think T.J. Hawkinson is really good, and there's sometimes where they only have one tight end out there, and I think sometimes they maybe just choose to put T.J. in there because maybe he's a little more well-rounded at this. Is that fair, Don? Is that maybe part of it?
Well, understand this. Play action is best when they think it's going to be a run.
Yes.
If T.J. is the best run blocker, then it makes sense that T.J. might be effective on play action pass also. Not that Nate's not; they both are. So, and let's think back. When's the last time you remember a drop by TJ?
Never.
It simply doesn't. It simply doesn't happen. He's got very, very good hands. So the coaches know what's best, and the players. The funny part, I mentioned parents asking you about why Johnny doesn't get more playing time. Sometimes I would say, well, ask Johnny how he compares in practice to Billy. The guy he's competing against.
Sure.
Johnny will probably tell you that Billy's the better player, and if Johnny doesn't feel that way, that's fine too. But we always have the numbers to back it up. Those practices are all graded too, and if one player is grading out better than another, then you're more likely to go with that particular player.
Now, I will admit there are times, there are players, and I'm sure you've seen him at Iowa, Don. I mean, Chuck Hartley was one that came to mind. He didn't get that edge until he got into a game. He wasn't a great practice player. Do you recall players that maybe weren't as good maybe in practice, but then you put them in a game and some light just went on and they were just better? I mean, to where you maybe wouldn't have known that until you finally put them in a game. I'm sure there's situations like that too.
I'll let you in on a conversation that I had with my staff several times through the years. It was always interesting to me as a head coach. Of course, I used to be an assistant. Mm-hmm. I would always remind them, as we're getting ready to play game 1, game 2, game 3, early season games. Okay, now you're the same coach that had a hard time figuring out who was 1 and who was 2. Just 2 weeks ago, you didn't even know who the starter was going to be. And I just want to remind you of that because here we are in game 1 now, or game 2. Don't be afraid to play the other player because you agonized over who was better to begin with. Mm-hmm. And my history says that sometimes you're wrong. You know, sometimes guys do play better in games than they practice. So give the backup a chance to show that he is better. And to those players that always said, Coach, I think you have an appreciation for me for how I can play, but I don't think my position coach does. I would always correct him. I would always explain, no, your position coach knows best how much playing time you deserve. And if you think he's wrong, then don't have the attitude that you're a victim. Have the attitude that I'll show him. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the right attitude to have, is simply to say, okay, he doesn't have an appreciation for me yet. I simply have to show him. Marv Cook one time told my team at Western Illinois, he said, when I was a young player at Iowa, I thought I should be playing more than some older tight ends. And he said, looking back, I was wrong, but that's what I thought at the time. And I wondered why my coach didn't like me more. And I was frustrated at times, but finally, to take out that frustration, I just started working harder. And he said, you know, a funny thing happened. That old coach, over time, he liked me more and more and more for how I was playing. And by the way, that old coach is your head coach now. And that coach was right. I was not as good a player as Mike Flagg. Back in that particular time, Mike Flagg was an older player that was an outstanding player in his own right. Marv Cook obviously became a great player, but as a young player, Marv was telling the team I wasn't quite as good as I thought. And finally, I figured out my mentality simply needs to be, I've got to show my coach that I'm better than the other player. And as I play better, I'll get more snaps. We're all in the business of winning football games, and you simply need to show your coach. You need to gain the confidence of your coach with how you practice and, of course, how you play.
It almost seems like Noah is turning into a specialist. When he's out there, he's option number 1 or 2, and he's so good that defenses sometimes can't stop it. I mean, he's on course for another 11, 12 touchdown season. He's not playing near as much. But like you said, I think there's times where you're not going to sell the play action when Noah Fant's lined up at the line of scrimmage, because teams know that his strength is not blocking. And I also think part of this is T.J. Hawkinson just keeps getting better. Wouldn't you? I mean, sure. Kirk was asked about him after the game. And the only reason I brought that up, Thomas, I've been bombarded by people telling me what's on message boards, what's on message board. Ask Kirk why he doesn't play the best guys. What's he trying to keep Noah here for another year by keeping his stat? It's just a bunch of ridiculous stuff. But T.J. Hawkinson, Kirk said after the game, he was asked about him. He goes, you know, he's basically he's one of our best players on the team. That's what he said right away about T.J. Hawkinson, that he's one of the best all-around players on the team.
Well, I would challenge those fans that wonder about playing time. If you really want to go to the trouble, TiVo the game, you know, that's going to be, 3 hours plus of
3.5 Saturday. Yeah. Thing was like Ben-Hur.
And then actually slow the game down and back the plays up and grade those players that you think deserve more snaps. And I suspect you'll be a little bit surprised that they don't grade out better than what you thought. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that's the kind of scrutiny that the coaches give to those players. And the best players end up playing the most. It's a pretty simple. I always like to say it's one of the last great democracies out there. The best players get the most snaps. Mm-hmm. You know, it's all about fairness, and anybody that thinks that a college coach is playing somebody for some kind of crazy ulterior motive, the only motive that matters is finding a way to win the football games. And you know, coaches are preoccupied with winning games. That's the reality. If you don't win enough games, you don't get to keep your job.
What did you think of the targeting call on Amani Jones? I thought the hit was fair, but Don, isn't it partly they're going to call it if they deem the receiver to be defenseless, and that looked like a defense because he led with his shoulder and he hit with his shoulder pad, but the receiver was defenseless. That's the only way I can interpret that.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. You know, I hate to say that point in the game, especially, you know, the game's won. There's only a little over a minute left. You know, it's hard for, of course, Amani's a headhunter type player. It's hard for a defensive player to not punish an offensive player when given the chance. It didn't have to be called. As I understand it, if it's a defenseless player, then the contact is supposed to be above the shoulders. I think I heard the experts say that on Saturday.
You mean below the shoulders?
It was really into the shoulders, yeah. The one thing that went against Amani, he did drop his head. You know, he hit a little bit with the crown of his helmet. It was a hard hit, no doubt about that. It's just unfortunate that it happened, especially, and this is where it makes it an especially significant penalty. I don't know about Hockaday status for Indiana, but obviously Amani Jones is not going to play a snap in the first half.
No.
That's the part of the penalty, of course. Neiman's also got some health issues. We're thin at linebacker, and that only added to it with Amani Jones having to miss the first half against IU.
So what is a defender in Amani Jones' position supposed to do? What can he do
Had
differently?
he hit him below, I still think, Don, had he hit him below the waist, which is dangerous because of knees, I think if he makes that same tackle right around his groin, just right around his hip area and just wraps around, I don't think they call that. I think since it was higher up.
I agree. No doubt about it. If he hits him in his midsection, there's no penalty.
No.
And it's just unfortunate that it happened. And I guess my only concern would be that late in the game, just get him on the ground. You know, it's hard. I feel sorry for defensive players because this targeting's gotten out of hand.
It has.
It's even worse in the NFL, of course, the way they're trying to protect quarterbacks nowadays. I don't know how you're able to generate a sack very often because you can't rush the quarterback hard.
No.
So they've gone overboard in terms of protection. I think a lot of offensive coaches would tell you that it's really a little bit unfair to the tackler to set it up as it is right now. Targeting, I think, is called a little more often than it really deserves. There needs to be some suggestion of a malicious hit. You know, if it's clear that the defensive player is trying to injure the offensive player, then clearly that's targeting. But I don't know for sure. I guess you could argue that qualified. Certainly, a Gopher fan would argue that
yes.
qualified as a malicious hit. But it still was not helmet to helmet.
No.
You know, it was a hit a little bit with the crown of the helmet into the shoulder area. I thought it was slightly below the shoulders. I thought they might wave it off based on that, but the damage done to the receiver, that's part of the equation too. The guys laying on the ground, they're a little more inclined to call targeting when there's an injury timeout.
And there's so much pressure on these officials now to call this stuff with all this awareness about head injuries and what have you. And like I said, the alternative is to hit below the waist, but then you risk the knee stuff. And I think if you ask receivers, they'd probably rather get hit higher up than below the waist, wouldn't they, Don, to protect their knees?
You know, I think I don't know what individual receivers would say. I know I used to sell my guys on total concentration on the ball, and I used to sell them on the fact that if you have total concentration on the catch, you don't feel those hard hits quite as much. Now, that still might mean there's an injury timeout, but at least your focus was where it's supposed to be. We have an expression for receivers that lack courage, and we simply refer to it as alligator arms.
Yes.
You know, if they're having to go into traffic to catch a ball, if they won't extend for the football, then you should question their courage as a defensive player, and you should light them up legally every chance you have because they lack the courage that a great receiver has.
Okay, let's a couple more questions before we wrap up. Indiana, what do you think the key is? Obviously, they're going to want to try to run the ball, do play action, but to me, this looks like a game where I can see Iowa scoring. I mean, Iowa's not Ohio State, but Ohio State just shredded Indiana. 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think we should expect. You know, for what I've seen of Indiana this year, they have good intentions. They're well coached. Bill Ennis is on that staff. You remember Billy as a player and a coach.
Very much so.
You know, they traditionally started off pretty well, and I haven't seen their stats, but the impression I have is they faded as the game goes on.
Yes.
So I think a key for us, try to get off to a good start, obviously, to try to negate the crowd a little bit, just as we did against Minnesota. And then just be prepared, just persevere, that's all. Just be mentally tougher than the other team and understand if things aren't going exactly right. I used to remind our guys, sometimes we got off to poor starts. I remember vividly a game we had against Michigan State. It was in Kinnick. We're down 17-0 at the end of one quarter. We just make our first down on the last play of the first quarter. The receiver that caught the ball for the first down was Demo Odoms, whatever year that was. I can't recall. Early 90s, I think.
Yep.
But here's the rest of the story. 17-0 after one quarter of play. The fans are unhappy, and you know, we got boos here and there. The final score is Iowa 37, Michigan State 30.
Remember
the
well.
message is the game lasts a long time. Just keep playing. Don't get discouraged. Even if you're down, I always like to remind, just a week ago down at Kansas State, I reminded the K-State quarterback, you do know how to eat an elephant, right? It's one bite at a time. Mm-hmm. You can't engineer a 19-point scoring drive. So let's get first downs. They lead to touchdowns. Let's cut it to a 2-score game. Let's cut it to a 1-score game. They were able to do that. And then they still lost to Texas, but they came back from 19 down to almost beat them. So the same thing would apply to us if we happen to get off to a poor start. If Indiana's up, just keep chewing away at them, and just recognize that the game can last a long time if you make it last a long time. We had a game over there years ago. You might remember the game. We got off to a horrible start. They had Anthony Thompson as a running back. We fumbled a kickoff. That's one of the worst turnovers in football, of course, because your offense never even got to get on the field. But the bottom line is we made that game last forever. They beat us, but a great call by Coach Mallory. They ran a fake punt to start the fourth quarter when they're up by 10.
You wouldn't think
off their
so.
end of the field.
Yeah.
And they picked up about 50 on that. They only got a field goal, but they broke our momentum. In the end, they beat us. That's the game that Chuck Hartlib threw for 545
45
yards,
to 30.
I think it was.
Yeah, didn't Nick Bill catch like 12 passes as a tight end? Yeah, I remember that game. It was fun to watch, other than the fact that you guys lost.
But the point is, you can make the game last a long time if you need to. Now, if the clock is against you a little bit, now you have no choice but to go hurry up.
Mm-hmm.
In that game, I'll tell you exactly what happened. There was a TV timeout, and back in those days, we actually got the satellite feeds from CBS. Gary Bender was calling the game, and it was Dick Vermeil. And during a commercial break, Gary Bender tells Dick Vermeil, "I'm afraid we got a dog in our hands today," meaning the game is not going to be close. And Dick Vermeil's response was, "You wait, I was going to make this game last forever." And we did, and we didn't beat them, but we gave them a real scare. And to Indiana's credit, they ran a fake punt when they were ahead by 10 to start the fourth quarter. That's almost unheard of. A great call by Coach Mallory, and after the game, I told Coach Mallory, "That's a great call, Coach." And he said, "We had to do something. You were going to reel us in." And so that's the message for any team that's playing from behind. Just keep playing, never lose faith, but you do need to extend the game. You need to play with good pace, good tempo. If you need to go 2 minutes before halftime, then do it. You need to buy as many possessions as you can.
One last
question. And, of course, it's critical that you execute well with that 2-minute mentality, even if it's not really 2 minutes on the clock.
One last question, Don. It's interesting what they're doing with Torrin Young. I mean, they seem to have a pattern. He doesn't play at all in the first half. Fans go nuts, of course, on social media because it's always the guy who's not playing is the best. But then Torrin Young comes in and they emphasize him in the third quarter. There seems to be a strategy there. Do you think partly because he's such a physical runner, they want to maybe wear the defense down? And what do you think about the way they're using him?
You know, honestly, I found myself feeling a little bit like some fans that I wondered why Torrin Young, I wondered why he was in the doghouse. We don't know what happens in practice, of course.
But then they use him in the third quarter.
The thing that comes to mind for me, if we're struggling to gain yards on the ground, Torrin, I think all three have different strengths and weaknesses, but I think if you wanted to give the hard yard category to someone, you'd have to give it to Torrin over the other two. I think he's just a little more physical runner, maybe not quite as elusive, but if you're having a hard time breaking tackles near the line of scrimmage, you know, maybe he's a muscle solution for you. You know, he's more likely to run through a tackle than the other two guys, I think. The bottom line, I think if they all share the responsibilities pretty evenly, that's a pretty good solution for us. Mm-hmm. It does put a little bit of a burden on the defense to try to always remember which back's in the game if they have slightly different profiles. And they do. Kelly Martin's got a little more speed and quickness, maybe a little more of a home run threat. On the other hand, you better have your pads down if you're taking on Torrin. And Sargent's done a good job, too. They all have value to our offense, no doubt about it. It's a good luxury for our running back coach to be able to call on any of the three at any time.
Tom, you got anything else?
I don't, Donnie. I appreciate your insight, as always. I think you would agree that anytime you can score 48 points against a Big Ten opponent and win by 17 points on the road, you've had a pretty good game.
Yep.
You're exactly right. I thought a great sign. That's what I call a routine win. On the road. You'll take those every time.
Yep. Thank you, Donnie. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll talk about a 5-1, and I'm guessing what will be a ranked Iowa team if they win at Indiana. They're right out of the AP right now. So hopefully we'll talk a victory here in a week.
That sounds good.
All right,
I'm sure
Don.
our guys will get ready. Indiana's a dangerous game.
Yes.
Anybody's capable of beating you. We know that. Look at Northwestern. Everybody wanted to write off Northwestern, and all they do is go to Michigan State and win again. So, you know, every game is a challenge, and our guys, I'm sure, will be ready.
All right. Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Donnie.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Well, Steve, let's take a quick little break.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back here from some of our lovely sponsors.
Mighty 1630.
We're as close as your smart device. Just ask Alexa to play KCJJ on TuneIn. Our video and audio streams are powered by Lucky's Market at the Iowa City Marketplace.
Here is your KCJJ forecast today. Mostly cloudy with scattered showers and thunderstorms. Our high right around 80 this afternoon. The wind out of the south at 5 to 15. Tonight, scattered showers and thunderstorms 65. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. High tomorrow 78. There could be an isolated strong to severe storm today. A better chance of severe storms tomorrow with some heavy rain possible as we head into tomorrow night. Stay tuned for updates. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. Currently, it's 66.
1-800-800-ROSE.
1-800-800-ROSE. Your FTD florist is the only number you need to know to send flowers anywhere in the country or Canada from anywhere in the country.
1-800-800-ROSE.
It's so easy. Just remember one number. 1-800-800-ROSE. Your FTD florist.
1-800-800-ROSE.
Remember, over the years, car keys have gotten extremely complex. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for Cars can generate the most technically advanced automotive keys on the market today. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for Cars can produce most conventional transponder, sidewinder, and remote-headed keys. If you've lost the keys to your car or simply need a duplicate, call 330-9185. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for Cars has the technology to keep you on the road. Call 330-9185 and schedule an appointment today.
Once upon a time, in the land of the Hawkeyes, a business grew. A business that would become synonymous with real estate. Hi, I'm Steve Anderson of Hawkeye Title and Settlement. When you're buying or selling your home, you'll need title and settlement services. Consider the Hawkeye Title and Settlement team. Give us a call at 351-8600. Hawkeye Title and Settlement, the team you love, the people you trust.
Dad, we want movies.
Hello, I'd like to switch to DirecTV. I want over 150 channels with HD DVR service and equipment fee included for one receiver.
DirecTV. Package offers start at incredibly low monthly prices. Call now.
Big Dog TV and Internet, 395-0800, or stop by and see us on Players Ferry Road in Cedar Rapids. Ends 8/31/18, 24-month agreement required, $35 activation, early termination fee of $20 per month for each remaining month on agreement. Equipment non-return and additional fees apply. New approved customers only. Equipment lease required. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Car won't go into gear? Call Premier. Premier Automotive in North Liberty offers full-service mechanical auto repair, in addition to being Eastern Iowa's most trusted name in auto body repair. Use Premier for all your auto repair needs: brakes, oil changes, air conditioning, diagnostics, transmissions, or preventative maintenance. Whether you hit a deer or your car won't go into gear, see Premier Automotive in North Liberty. If you are looking for creative, eye-popping graphics, look no further than Zephyr Sign and Graphics. Zephyr specializes in vehicle graphics, posters, indoor and outdoor banners, stretched canvas signs, vinyl, plastic, or frame metal yard signs. Call Zephyr Signs and Graphics at 351-3500. That's 351-3500. And ask for the large format department. For incredibly creative and effective signs and graphics, stop by Zephyr Signs and Graphics in the heart of downtown Iowa City's Ped Mall at 125 South Dubuque Street. GT Carr, owner of Supple Siding and Remodeling, offers service and quality that is unmatched in the area. At Supple Siding and Remodeling, their trained professionals will install and guarantee the products used in any size job done, regardless of the project. Supple Siding and Remodeling will stand behind their quality products and installation with exceptional customer service. Whether it's a window replacement, a kitchen remodel, or a house addition, our employees are committed to quality. Visit sales at supples.net or call 337-2246.
In the electrical field, we know time is in high demand and often short supply. At Sittler's LED Supplies, we value our relationships with local contractors and electricians to evaluate jobs, create layouts, recommend and supply our in-stock products, and file incentive paperwork for your customers. How much time and money can Sittler's LED Supplies save your business? Call 1-800-426-3938 to talk to one of our lighting experts, or stop in, meet the team, and tour our facility at 111 Westview Drive in Washington.
My sister tells riddles and jokes a lot at the table. Everybody is focused on their food so much no one takes out their phone.
Reboot Family Night at the Oxy Oak Inn.
Sometimes I order from kids' menu, but sometimes from grown-up menu. I dunk my roll in the strawberry jam.
The food makes everybody happy.
I eat my mashed potatoes on the outside and save the piece in the middle with the most gravy for the last bite. Mom shares her potato pancakes with me. My sister likes the homemade chips. Dad's plate is always totally clean, even the gravy. He really, really likes the food. My grandma likes it at the Ox Yoke Inn when we take her there.
Families in everything they do at the Ox Yoke Inn.
We laugh every time we go there. We're happy.
Just 20 minutes from Cedar Rapids and Coralville's Coral Ridge Mall.
Strawberry jam is good.
Mighty 1630 KCJJ. Hello, allhawkeyes.com.
What's up?
We've got a new. This is just. I hate this. We've got a new weather advisory, and it says, if it comes up here, that we are under a flood warning. Come on. Flood warning remains in effect until Wednesday evening. They've just revised this. National Weather Service in the Quad Cities has issued a flood warning for the Iowa River at Iowa City until Wednesday evening. At 9 o'clock this morning, the stage was 21.4 feet and rising. Flood stage is 22 feet. No flooding is occurring. Minor flooding is forecast. The river will fall below flood stage Wednesday evening. At its highest, urban flood damage will occur in some areas of Iowa City. So a flood warning now extended, was to end this afternoon, extended till Wednesday evening.
Well, that ain't great.
Excuse me.
That ain't great.
No, it's not great.
No.
I also clogged up both ears just now. So that ain't great.
All right, so
Hawkeyes.com.
So what'd you think, Pat, about what Donnie had to say? Anything surprising to you? Or?
Oh, the only thing that surprised me is he didn't think they loaded the box as much as I did, and maybe they didn't. I just thought every time it looked like they were running to the short field, there was 10 Minnesota Gophers right there knowing that they were going to run the ball. But I think the play calling for the most part was creative, and I thought they were explosive, and it just looked like they could move the ball whenever they wanted to through the air against Minnesota for the most part. And the only thing that really hurt him was Nate still makes some really dumb decisions, and he still isn't real aware in the pocket at times. I mean, there's times where he just there are times where I just wish he would tuck the football and just run, and he just doesn't seem to want to do that. There were countless times where I thought if he just tucked the football, he could run for 8 to 15 yards and not have to worry about throwing the ball, the risk, and what have you. But that's just not his style right now, and he still does some perplexity. Like why he threw the ball into what looked like almost quadruple coverage there, I don't get that. That's not coaching, I don't think. That was just something, he had a momentary lapse. But for the most part, he threw for 314. You can't complain. And probably my biggest take from that is just how I just really like that environment. I love that stadium.
Oh, I do too.
I think it's one of the neatest stadiums. I love the location where if they ever get things going there, watch out, because it's a really neat atmosphere, and it's just that stadium is it's convenient. And I like the open area down at the one end where they got the concession stands right there behind the goalpost. It's got a little small stadium feel to it, but it also holds 50,000.
Yeah, I like that stadium a lot. I wish I had been there Saturday, but I mean we had guests, so we couldn't. But
I didn't think, maybe I missed it. I didn't think there was as many Iowa fans usually, but maybe they were more scattered out. I mean, there was a decent amount, but sometimes I always think there's going to be 25, 30,000 Iowa fans there. But when that game started, there were a lot of empty seats, especially in the prime sections, like on the 50-yard line. There were just a ton of empty seats. They eventually filled in, but no, it was just number one, it was a long day. I left at 7 and got home at 3:30. I mean, think about that. And then when we were walking to the stadium, this man wearing a trench coat and a suit and tie and eating a walking taco comes up and asks to borrow $22 for a friend. And when he was asking, he was spitting the walking taco part of the Dorito shows were landing on my. It was just, and he picked me out of 1,000 of people to ask for what money.
Can I assume he was unsuccessful?
I did not. I wasn't going to give him $22. What the hell?
Yeah, why 22?
I mean, that would buy a hot dog at the game. Why would I want to do that? But no, it was
a
just
small hot dog.
It was just a weird day, and then we get to the press box, and they're serving Chinese food. And I love Chinese food, but I've been doing this for a long time and don't recall ever Chinese food being served. And they had these chicken breasts that were really good, some type of seasoning on them, but then they had egg rolls that were just soggy. But that's hard to.
Soggy eggs.
Oh, I couldn't eat them. You hold them up.
Don't you hate soggy egg rolls?
I hate egg rolls.
Oh, I love egg rolls.
How can you hate egg rolls?
I don't know, but I do.
I love egg rolls.
If they're fried,
if they're
they
fried
got meat
and
in them.
crispy and hot, and you dip them in the sweet and sour sauce. Oh,
there's something in them that I don't like. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
but there's something that doesn't
cabbage?
work for me. Yes, there you go.
See, I love cabbage. I could eat cooked cabbage.
You know, you should go then. They don't have cabbage at Ariza in the egg roll.
What do they have?
A lot of meat, and they've got sprouts and stuff.
Their egg rolls are small.
There you go.
Their egg rolls are small. They're little compact. They look like little missiles.
Yeah.
These were big, soggy Hindenburg things.
No, I don't. No.
And it was a nice try. I give Minnesota credit.
They got egg rolls at the Peking in Muscatine that all they are is meat and fried shell.
Now that I would love.
They're great.
See, I like to have the scallions and the cabbage and all that stuff in there.
It's got some celery in it,
but
it's mostly meat and in a fry. And they changed them to spring rolls for about 4 weeks, and people stopped going there. Seriously. In protest till they brought them back.
Well, back to meat ones.
But you're not a big Chinese food fan, are you?
Not big.
Yeah, see, I love Chinese food.
I love it.
Certain kinds. I love any of the red sauce, like Hunan chicken, Szechuan chicken, Kung Pao, General. I love that type of stuff.
I like most of the meat. I do. But it's, like the egg rolls. You guys just reeled off 3 ingredients why I don't like them. Sprouts, cabbage, and what'd you say, scallions?
Scallions. Oh, I love scallions. See, my mom used to make corn.
Don't like any of those.
My mom would make corned beef and cabbage, and she'd make potatoes in there with it. And the cabbage was just out of this world. Put a lot of pepper on it, and I love cooked cabbage. It's great in beef stew too.
My mom used to give me the heart of the cabbage, and I would eat that raw.
Ugh.
But if you cook it, I can't do it.
I don't like cooked spinach, but. But no, it was a interesting day, long day. Better that they won the game. We get to the elevator. The other interesting thing
I just had it with you.
We get to the parking ramp where we parked didn't have an elevator. So after the game, it was only, I think it was 5 or 6 flights of steps, but it was just weird that the parking ramp had no elevators. And
it is weird.
You had to go up 6 flights of steps to get to our car carrying our bags. I'm whining a little bit, but
what I told you off the air. I evidently don't know what I'm giving these people.
Oh yeah, I don't care, to be honest with you. But they won the game that they needed to, and it was a fun. I rode up there with Todd and Rob, and the other
you told me that Todd was ready to go on the air.
He talked a little bit, but you guys had other things going on. I mean, it was flooding here, and Feeney and Tom, you were here for like 2 seconds, weren't you?
I had the phone ringing, and I said, Todd, do you recognize this sound? And he didn't say nothing.
But I thought, I handed him the phone, and he did say a couple things, but you guys didn't respond because you weren't listening to us. You were talking to each other about the water, and it was one of...
We almost died.
Well, Tommy was tweeting the whole time saying that we were exaggerating everything.
Not really. Yeah, when Tommy got out,
it got a lot worse.
That's what Feeney thought was funny. Tommy tweeted that we were all exaggerating, making a bit, and then he escapes. We thought that was kind of funny.
If you look out at that satellite dish and you see that there's 2 bolts coming out of the side of by the ground, okay, you see where the highest bolt is?
Are you talking about the white one?
Yeah. See the bolts?
Yes.
Okay. The water was equal to the upper bolt. And the satellite dish was just touching water.
Yeah, I don't blame Feeney for wanting to get out of here.
Oh, no.
Oh, he brought me food.
Yeah, especially when Tom got out of here.
Yeah, he got out of here, and he brought me sandwiches and chips and Diet Coke.
Yeah, that was nice of him.
I could have been out here for days existing on.
But no, we had a fun trip up there. The weird thing is driving home, I couldn't find any place open. There's nothing in Minnesota open after 11 o'clock, like any fast food, nothing. We went through Albert Lee.
They don't have the Happy Chef in Owatonna still?
Well, we didn't go drive around through it. We just tried to find stuff off the road.
They have a Happy Chef?
Nothing
They
open.
used to. Back in our band days, we'd always stop at the
But we didn't
Happy
want to stop.
Chef.
We wanted to drive through.
Yeah.
But I also remember Minneapolis. I'm not sure if this has changed, but when I first started covering Iowa stuff back in the 90s, people were like, hey, if you're going to go out in Minneapolis, make sure you do it early. Everything shuts down at midnight. Is that still the case in Minneapolis? Their last call would be always like at 11:50. Well, we couldn't find any place to eat. Nothing on the way home.
Mace and Kim would have invited you.
Are they in Minneapolis?
Yeah. Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hey.
Couple of questions. One of the things everybody's talking about Fant and the number of snaps, but how many times has he come out of the game injured this year?
You mean like after there's been a few of those where he comes out banged up and what have you, and I think he needs a few plays to get his senses back. I thought there was one of those on Saturday.
Did have that odd end around play. Was that was last week, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
And a couple of those were shots to the ribs, so I'm wondering if maybe he's got some sore ribs maybe.
That could be, and that would hurt more. I would get that would not do well for blocking, especially when blocking's maybe your weakest part of your game.
Correct, and so I plus maybe they're setting something up. You know, there's nothing wrong with playing possum a little bit once in a while.
And in fairness, he does have 5 touchdown catches in 5 games. I mean, they're still using him, and like I said, if they complete those 2 long ones, his stats are way different. I mean, he's
astronomical.
And one of them was his fault, and the other was Stanley's fault. They just didn't click.
Yeah, I think people are trying to do a little too. I mean, they're just trying to find a reason to complain.
I think you're right about that.
Possible too.
And the Epinesa stuff makes sense too. I mean, Hesse and Nelson are really, really good players.
My God, Nelson in the first quarter was just unblockable.
And Hesse just is so good against the run, and AJ still plays. But yeah, I think you're right to that caller. There's time. Plus, I think part of it too, though, is the fact that AJ was a 5-star and Noah Fant was a big recruit they got from Nebraska. I think part of that carries over to, okay, these guys we've got this 5-star and we're having him sit behind a 2-star. And I think that's part of it. In this age of recruiting and social media and all, I do think that's part of it.
Could be, yeah.
One of the things that I think that we probably need to get a little better handle on right now is who are the backup linebackers. I'm assuming those are some of the true freshmen.
Yeah, I mean, there was people tweeting that Dylan Doyle's going to start against Indiana. I don't know how anyone can make that conclusion. If I had to guess, I think Christian Welch probably moves inside the middle if Hockaday can't go for the first half, and they'd go with Colbert and Barrington Wade, and I think you've got Dijon, and then who else? I mean, they're getting thin. They're going to be, and then Amani Jones, when he gets back for that second half, they'll have enough to work with. But I would be stunned if they start a true freshman at Indiana who's played in 1 game. I think Dylan Doyle makes that trip to Indiana and is part of it. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're ready to just throw a true freshman in there. I think that's more people wanting to find that next great story, next great star. To me, Christian Welch makes more sense moving him inside.
Absolutely.
It seemed to me there were times we were playing 3 safeties Saturday.
Well, yeah, what they did was it's a 4-2-5 formation that's basically predicated on what the offense is doing. Amani Hooker basically becomes like another kind of glorified linebacker in a way. And then they moved. There was times where Michael Ojemudia was in there too. And it's mostly just formation based. I don't think it's anything like Hooker's moving to linebacker. They've done it before. Phil Parker has done it, and it's almost like a 4-2-5.
So, Pat, do you think that Moss has beaten out Ojemudia?
Yes, I do. I do think injuries maybe contributed a little bit to it, but I think he has beaten him out, and it's Kirk's delicate way of – Kirk doesn't like to say that stuff in public, so to throw the injury thing in there too, it makes it look like there's a little bit to it. Why? And I think Riley Moss – I mean, Riley struggled. I mean, the interceptions erased. No. He struggled big time in the first half. So, to me – the cornerback positions are still kind of unsolved. What do you think, caller? I really like Julius Brents. I think he just made it look easy, and you notice Minnesota didn't test him too many times.
That's true. He definitely looks the part.
He does.
You can see why he was a 4-star.
And that interception he had was impressive.
Yes, I just think we'll see a lot more 4-2-5 with the way that Indiana plays.
Yes. And they've done that before against Indiana. Yeah, a lot of it depends on how the other teams plays, and it wouldn't surprise me before this year's all said and done if Julius Brents and Matt Hankins were their starters at cornerback. With Riley Moss being in there, too, now you wonder where's Josh. Josh Turner was way up high earlier, but maybe it's just a situation where Riley Moss has beat him out. And like Don said, this stuff's decided a lot in practice, and we don't see this stuff. But no, I just thought it was interesting how they rarely tested Julius Brents, even though he was making his first start. And when they did, he held his own. He's very talented.
Pat, is basketball media day this week?
It's today at 1:45.
So that'll be a phenomenal event for you to get some spectacular information from tremendous players.
Yes, yeah, that's a good. That's a good. You got all three words.
Got
in
her.
there. You got all three words in there. That's exactly how I think it's going to be.
Okay, well, I look forward to hearing that. They just, over here in Des Moines, they just put out the order for us to go out and gather animals 2 by 2. So
is it raining there now?
Get to work.
Is it raining there now?
It is raining. Oh yeah, it's not too bad, but they're saying the heavy stuff's coming. So.
Thank God for sump pumps. I mean, we're lucky right now that it's not raining here.
Thank you,
caller. Appreciate it. We've gone a long time now in this. When's the last time it rained really hard? Like 6, 7
o'clock.
hours? Well, I was out
6 and 7
It
o'clock.
wasn't raining that hard at my house.
It was here.
It was at my house, too, real hard at about 6:20.
Yeah.
But we've gotten a lucky break here in the last 24 hours. We haven't had a ton of rain. You know, that helps. And it doesn't look like it could be pouring down right now, and it's not.
It looks nice.
This helps.
Yeah, not much, because there's so much.
Well, it's better than it not raining.
Radar.
I mean, it's better that it's not raining. I mean,
You're
that's
right.
all I'm saying.
I'm just saying, I just looked at the radar.
But it's not raining now is all I'm saying. You guys are so gloom and doom.
Yeah, we're gloom and doom. I'm going to show you the radar.
But all I'm saying is look at sun right now. It's not raining right now.
That is God mocking us.
Are you against the sun, Steve?
I am just saying.
It hasn't rained for about 3 hours. That's pretty nice. And we should take advantage of that. And it doesn't look like it's going to rain for maybe another couple hours.
Yeah. Here's where we are.
I don't need to see the radar. I know it's coming from the west.
Okay.
Look, okay. Here we go.
Oh, my.
Here we go.
Oh, my
Here
God.
we go. Here we go.
Oh, that is bleak.
Now there's Lincoln.
But it's not raining now.
That's right.
If you look closely at Lincoln, you can see Scott Frost is underwater.
In more ways than one.
Yeah. And there is Grand Island, Nebraska. And there, I mean, this is...
That's a big wall of water coming in.
It just keeps going.
So far, my basement has stayed dry, and my sump pump is working.
Well, my sump pump is working, and I'm insured because the basement, the carpeting is wrecked.
Yeah, see, I will...
And the sump pump is... I mean, it's shooting.
Well, yeah, homeowners
shooting out.
And the
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah, if you have homeowners insurance, you're covered.
Yeah, that's what Mikey G said.
But why? You must be. Are you built on a lower level? I mean,
Not really.
With a sump pump.
Yeah, it kind of comes down to your house.
The water from mine goes. I'm up on and it all goes down both sides, which is nice. But that shows you how much
Did you
rain
check
we
on
have.
Padaski this morning?
Well, he's down there, and I told him if you see any wet water, let me know. And I haven't heard from him yet.
If you hear a bumping on your floor,
because Padaski
he's hitting the
Padaski
ceiling.
wants to know if he has to work on his day off today with Iowa Media Day. And he wanted me to ask. I guess he didn't want me to ask you on the air. But
Hello. I don't. Yeah,
Is this thing on? Oh, my pump's working just fine. A couple of someone in the chat room wanted to know if Lois Feldman was there. I did not see her.
I did not see her either.
But speaking of her, she evidently she's actually pretty sharp football mind, a defensive specialist. Especially, she likes to go heavy on the linebackers. Put a lot of men in the box. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Gotcha.
And did not see her there, but I heard through some of my channels that she's not near the MILF she used to be anyway, so probably no great loss.
Age will do that.
We all... I kind of try to keep myself in shape, but some of these women, I don't know, they give up. That's why I got to keep skewing younger and younger all the time.
See you later.
Meow. Meow.
Jesus Christ.
Oh. Does real Dirk really laugh that much?
No.
No.
No, he doesn't.
No, not at all.
Have you noticed how much fake Dirk laughs?
I know.
That's his thing.
Did you just cut him off, Captain?
Yes.
You just cut off fake Dirk.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
And I am.
Tommy liked it.
He's back. Are you gonna cut? What if this is him again? Fake.
Cut him off again if he starts getting to
into danger territory.
Yeah. Hello.
No, it's not the laugher there. It's Dave from Bettendorf. How you doing, guys?
Good, Dave. How you doing?
Hey, good to hear from you.
Good to hear or talk to you guys. Good show there as usual, and good to hear coach's analysis on the game. Hey, Pat, you guys probably touched on this, but one thing in Saturday's game, I thought it was our best overall special teams effort.
Good
the
point.
whole game. Colton Rastetter. I'm sorry. Thanks, guys. He had 4 important punts there and flipped the field 4 times where he didn't move the ball in the Gophers, and I thought those were big kicks. Marcette Smith had 2 outstanding kickoff returns. That one, he just barely. He had to leap over the kicker, one of their guys, or I think he would have broke it.
He said it wasn't the kicker. He said it was.
Probably tell me better than that. And I thought, was it Miguel Racinas had a solid game and that stuff. And I was going to ask you one thing. Did you ever hear anybody, either P.J. Fleck or one of their coaches, say they fair caught every kickoff? Was it because they wanted to start at the 25, or did you hear any reasoning why they?
No, I did not. Some of them, though, they caught them in the end zone, and they just decided it was. Now that they move it out to the 25 instead of the 20, I think that impacts that decision a lot. I mean, 25 is not great field position, but it's not bad. I mean, there's not a lot of 25 and 26-yard kick return average guys, so I think sometimes they just assume taking it at the 25 is better than risk trying to run it out that far from the end zone.
Anthony Nelson's been named the Big Ten
That's what I figured.
Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, he won that in the first half.
That's great to hear. Did it look like Marcette, that second kickoff return, was just one guy away from going the distance, Pat? Or?
Yeah, and the media all assumed it was their kicker, and he corrected us by saying it was a safety who tackled him that last tackle. But that was huge. That gave him the ball at midfield, and I mean, you're starting to see his speed really impact the game. I mean, that 60-yard touchdown, he ran away from those D-backs, and they're figuring ways to get him more involved.
Yeah, what happened on that? Did he just beat that guy that badly, or did the guy?
Well, no. When
slip,
Stanzi started to scramble, the D-backs obviously reacted to that, and Amir stayed in his route, stayed and trusted his route. And basically, when the D-back started to charge up, Amir was still open, and Nate, instead of running, Nate looked up at the last second and threw the ball to him. It was good improvising by Stanley, but it was also showed Amir's trust in his route and just be patient. You know, he didn't start panicking and breaking his route and saying, look at me. He stayed with it and then noticed that the D-backs were going to react to Stanley, and then Amir kind of moved up a little bit and made himself available in a little hole in the defense. They both showed good poise.
I was going to say, Pat, I thought Nate moved around the pocket as well as he's done.
Yeah.
He's getting better at that, kind of improvising and stretching the play so somebody hopefully will get open. And, of course, that was the big play there to Amir there for that touchdown. And I thought overall the offensive line did a really good job pass blocking. Alaric Jackson got beat a couple times there, and I know the one caused that fumble. But overall, I thought they did a
pass
solid
blocking
job
was
in
good.
that.
Run blocking was average at best. I was like Coach Patterson said, I thought they'd be able to run the ball a little better, but they just didn't.
And just getting over the defensive side real quick, Riley Moss, if he was feeling his way along and he did an outstanding job overall. If he would have turned once or twice early in the game in that one touchdown, I think he would have either knocked it down or intercepted that one too. But he didn't get turned around.
You live and learn.
I think he. But yeah, it's trial and error and that stuff. And but did you have any concerns? It just seemed like, and I know we gave him 2 gimmies there on the interception late in the first half and then that fumble deep in our territory. When they seemed to kind of move the ball on us there in the second, third quarter, there it seemed like they got some things going, and I guess you got to give them credit. But it seemed like we weren't quite getting to the quarterback like we were early in the game. And I know we had some injuries with Hockaday out, and we were switching guys around there. But was it a combination of Minnesota probably making some good plays and some of our young guys still feeling their way along? What did you think?
I think that's part of it. I was never concerned. It never felt like Minnesota was going to win that game. I mean, and there's lots of times where I don't feel real confident when Iowa. It just always felt like Iowa was control. It felt like Iowa, when it needed to score, could score, and Minnesota didn't have an answer. So no, even when it got to be 31-24, if Nate would just stop making turnovers in the red zone, this game wouldn't even be close. I mean, Iowa was clearly the better team on Saturday.
What did you think of Onixstad?
I thought he was not bad.
I thought so too.
He had a much harder environment to work in than Nate did, and I thought he held his own and throws a good ball. And they have two really good receivers. They just couldn't run the ball. They have no line play. I never did really worry, Dave. They took care of business. This was a game they needed to win. I like the fact they came out aggressive and played well early, and scoring 48 points on the road against anybody, even Rutgers, that's an accomplishment when you can do that in the Big Ten.
No, I agree. Two other quick things I'll get off. I thought we played one of our cleaner games. I think that's the key, whether you're home or away, but especially away. Limit penalties, and then, like you say, those two turnovers, if we could erase those, they probably shouldn't have scored more than 17 on us in the game. And what kind of crowd would you estimate Iowa fans up there? It looked like a pretty good contingent.
Maybe 8,000 to 12,000. I'm not really good at guessing that. And they were kind of scattered and what have you, and they were late arriving. That was the other thing. It was a very late arriving crowd from both fronts. So by the time the game starts, you don't pay as much attention to the crowd. But I'm guessing there was probably at least 8,000 to 10,000, like always up there. But the Minnesota students were late arriving and early to leave. I mean, there was just a lot of empty seats, I thought, for a stadium that only holds 50,000. But, man, like I said before, what a neat stadium, what a neat environment. If they can ever get winning up there, that's going to be a really neat environment.
I hear you. Hey, one last thing, Pat. Do you have the stats for the game with you?
Not with me, but what were you wondering? I
was just curious what our yardage was for running and then passing, and then what Minnesota's rushing and passing.
Well, Minnesota passed for about 218 and 2 touchdowns. Iowa passed for 314 and 4 touchdowns. Nate completed 23 of 35, I believe. 14 of them went to receivers, wide receivers, 3 to be exact. And Iowa ran for about 116, but the yards per carry average was nothing.
And Minnesota ran for less than 100.
Less than 100. Yeah. Iowa ran, I believe, for 116 and average, maybe 3.8 or nothing.
Maybe.
The running was not anything to celebrate. I mean, I'm with Don Patterson. I'm still a little concerned about the inconsistency with the running. But no, I mean, they shredded Minnesota through the air. And like I said, if Nate completes that pass to Fant, that's another 70, 80 yards of passing, and Fant's got another touchdown. He just missed him because Fant was open, and it seemed like last year they hit on those a lot last year.
No, you're right there. So, well, we need another effort, a quick start, and a full 60 minutes this coming Saturday, guys. So
yeah, Indiana's better than Minnesota. They're slightly better than. So yeah, they're gonna. Nate's got to avoid. You do 2 turnovers in the red zone against Indiana, that may backfire and burn you.
I agree. So we got to play a clean game all the way around.
Yep.
So go Hawks and have a good day.
All right,
guys.
thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, that's right. And I've been saying Indiana. It's a game that absolutely we could lose. But if we want to get back to get into 10-win seasons, it's the kind of game that we need to win and that we need to start winning consistently.
Yeah, especially when you've got Purdue and Northwestern on the schedule. They're the exact same way. Northwestern.
Yeah.
I mean, they just when you think they're dead, they come up and they beat a team, Michigan State at Michigan State. Very impressive.
And it was fairly solid.
Yes, it was.
Hello.
Hey, it's Randy.
Hey, Randy.
So it was good to get the win this weekend.
Always.
I thought it was going to be like a 38-10 game. I think I said last week I was saying 5 or 6 sacks, and I did get that part right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the defense gave up some big plays. I think this was a game where the offense led the way. I mean, the offense led the way to victory. The defense gave up less than 400 yards, but still, I was surprised that Minnesota was able to throw for that many. And let's face it, a lot of those yards were against Riley Moss early.
Yeah.
I mean, Riley was getting shredded in the first 2 quarters, and then he adjusted. He stuck with it, and I'm sure they adjusted as coaches. But no, I mean, I didn't think the defense had a great day for the standard that the defense has set so far.
Yeah, that play toward the end of the half, that trick play worked out pretty good.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh yeah, the field goal. Yeah, that was neat, and that was not easy. Like I said, that snap was not an easy. He had to hit him in a perfect location, and it was a lateral snap. It wasn't. He didn't snap it behind him. He almost snapped it lateral to the line of scrimmage, and it did. And like Don said, I'm glad they had a little room to run because he needed every bit of space to beat that D-back to the corner of the end zone. It was tough.
Yeah. Have you seen the post that I'm guessing that Noah Fant's brother put on Twitter?
No. What's he complaining about playing time?
Yeah, it's Chris Fant and Willie Fant. I don't know if those are both those.
I think Willie's his dad.
I don't know.
But the Chris Fant, he is apparently a coach over in Nebraska, and he put in there, these coaches must think the number one guy in the nation is the second or third best on their team because they both get more reps than he does. It's hard to believe a player who is arguably the best at his position only plays sometimes. Hard to watch this mess over and over.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm not going to. I mean, that's family being emotional, and he still has 5 touchdown passes and nearly 20 receptions. He's on course for a similar season that Dallas Clark had when he was everything. Dallas had like 400 yards receiving and what have you. So I'm just not ready to go there yet. I understand family sticking up for family, but I think we're selling the coaches and T.J. Hawkinson a little short. And I still say if Noah catches that pass in the season opener and Nate completes that pass to him Saturday, he's got another 150 yards. He's got 7 touchdowns. I don't think we're hearing.
You wouldn't be hearing.
I don't
much.
think we're hearing any of this.
I mean, just little things like execution make a whole lot of difference.
Well, and I think the family's basing all this stuff on what people in the media said about Noah going into the season, that he's a first-team preseason All-American. So it's funny how the media doesn't know anything until you need them to fight your narrative. And I don't want to. I'm not going to pick on the fans. They have every right to defend Noah and what have you. But I'm just not ready to say that the Iowa coaches are doing something to hold the guy back. I just don't. I've just never understood that.
No, I don't. I've never thought that, but I think what the caller said about the injuries, that might be a slight factor too.
There may be something to it,
Yeah.
but I also think T.J. Hawkinson's a better blocker.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And there's going to be probably maybe 15, 20 plays where the tight end is simply there to block.
Yeah.
And they're going to go with Hawkinson or Nate Whiting. Nate Whiting plays on blocking plays too.
Or both, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it. But now that this is on Twitter, I could see Kirk being asked about this tomorrow since you've got multiple family members complaining about it. I'm sure I haven't been on Tom's board, but I'm sure it's just civil unrest over there. And it just
I haven't spent hardly any time on it because I had house guests.
So yeah,
last night.
I understand the family being defending their son. I get it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just not ready to say it's a conspiracy and that they're holding Noah back. I'm just not going to go there.
Hawkinson is he's like a first-round draft pick.
Oh, I think he's going to.
Where is he from, Pat?
Sheridan. T.J. Hawkinson's really good. He's one of the best tight ends they've had since I've been here, and he's only a third-year sophomore.
He hasn't dropped any passes.
He doesn't drop anything, and he blocks. He's not a great blocker.
When I see them both come off the field for a little bit Saturday, they were sitting side by side, and Hawkinson looked quite a bit bigger than.
Well,
Shane.
Noah doesn't show any bad body language. I mean, he seems like he's okay with everything. But yeah, I didn't see the stuff from his brother and his father. I've seen his father. Yeah, I can understand they're frustrated, but this snap count now, this is the new thing. This for Noah Fant and A.J. Epinesa, it's going to be ongoing, and a lot of now, like you've got. Rivals is using Pro Football something snap counts, and they post all that stuff and what have you. But I don't know. This is always an underlying story. It seems like with Iowa football, they're never playing the best guys, and I
think AJ's dad, AJ Epinesa's dad, is handling it the way you'd want to.
Well, because he understands football, and he understands that they're using him the right way, and that Parker Hesse and Anthony Nelson are really good.
And Kirk has answered that.
Yes, and that to me just needs to go away.
I agree.
I mean now the Fant one, I think there may be more to it, and we'll see now. Because like I said, if this stuff's, I don't follow Chris Fant or Noah's dad on Twitter, but if it's out there, then maybe somebody will ask Kirk about it tomorrow, and I have a feeling what Kirk's going to say. So we'll see.
Yeah, I hadn't heard. I don't follow them either, but I heard something on the radio this morning in Des Moines radio that made me look it up, and yeah, it's about 60 people long, and Chris Vance engaging with everybody that gets on there and talks about it.
Yeah, he's stirring the pot for sure.
Oh, and I'm sure somebody will probably write about it. It wouldn't surprise me if the Register writes about it or whatever, but I wouldn't write about it until I have a chance for Kirk to give his side of it, if he does. And Kirk maybe won't give his side of it.
I doubt he will.
Well, he might. I mean, if somebody asked him about it, and I could see somebody ask him about it, and there may be stuff that Kirk doesn't want to share with the public. I mean, we don't know what's going on. He may be injured, and it may be something as simple as, hey, when we're blocking, he's not going to be in. Because he's not as good a blocker as Fant or as Whiting or Hawkinson. And neither one of those guys are great blockers either, but that's a part of Noah's game. But I don't know. He still has 5 touchdown catches in five games. Marv Cook's one of his All-American seasons. I think he had 7 touchdown passes for the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
So Noah's got 16 touchdown catches since the start of last season. That's a tight end that's being
It's amazing.
utilized. So I understand the frustration from his brother and what have you, but it's unfortunate that they have to take it to social media, rile up the fans, but that's their intent. I think they think if enough fans get mad on social media that Kirk's going to feel pressure to do something different, and that's insane. That ain't going to happen. Kirk's not going to bow to social media discourse, but
he probably is not going to see it either.
He's not going to, but I'm sure people.
Good point.
I'm sure that people that work for him see it because they're some of their coaches and people are pretty active on Twitter.
Brian.
Well, he's not as active
No,
as.
but he probably will see.
But they've got people that's their job to pay attention to what's going on social media, and they'll let Kirk know stuff if he needs to know stuff. I'm sure Kirk will know going into tomorrow's press conference that Noah's got some family members that are unhappy on Twitter.
And he'll handle it just right.
Yep.
One of them, Chris Fant, seems to think as a coach because he says you coaches need to get off Twitter and get back to game planning, bud. You guys have a big game this week, and I'll be watching.
Well, what I would say to that is they scored 48 points, and I think they did all the game plan just fine.
Yeah, they had 300 yards passing, and
Jesus Christ.
they completed
Yeah,
six.
Honestly, when can somebody be good? They take all the joy out of this. When we lose, it's fire and brimstone.
But this is frustrated family members who know that they're on the verge of something great. Noah's got to. They're fully looking at this as Noah's next step to the NFL. I don't think they will plan to have Noah back next year. They're like, man, he's a first-team preseason All-American. We got to just kick butt this year, and we're off to the NFL. And that's fine. More power to you. I hope it happens. But that doesn't mean that Iowa football has to change everything it does to appease one guy
exactly
who maybe has a few weaknesses in his game, who maybe has been injured a little bit. I think there's more to it. And I don't think it helps Noah to have his brother going on Twitter ripping the Iowa coaches. I don't think that helps.
No, it doesn't.
But he can do whatever he wants. I'm not criticizing him. I understand family comes first, and it's emotional and what have you. It's just unfortunate that this comes after a game where they score 48 points and have over 300 yards passing.
Yeah, they're both great tight ends and probably some of the best that Ferentz has had.
Oh, without
in his
question.
tenure.
Yeah, without question.
And it just happens to be that they're playing at the same time, and I mean that stuff's going to happen. It's great that we have 2 great tight ends because the wide receivers, I mean, they're just starting to come into their own. I mean, Brandon Smith had a heck of a catch.
He sure did. He had a real good game.
He posted, these coaches must think the number one guy in the nation is the second or third best on their team because they both get more reps than he does. It's hard to believe a player is arguably the best at his position, only plays sometimes. Hard to watch that mess over and over.
A mess at 4-1. He's calling a
that's
300-yard passing game
BS.
with 48 points a mess, and that's not fair.
No, it's
I mean,
not.
that's just not fair. I don't think that's fair to the Iowa coaches. But
I
some
thought Stanton was injured on that one end around play. He got slammed down hard on the back of his head, and he went out for a little bit. I don't know. I don't remember if he came back in or not.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I just, like I said, this is just unfortunate.
Then he posts a GIF, speak a little truth, people lose their minds.
Oh, so are people ripping him or disagreeing with him? I figured most of the people would rally and get behind him on Twitter.
I'm not reading.
Most of the people I've seen on here are disagreeing with him.
Good, in a way. I mean, and I think it helps. Now, had they lost that game 17-14, and
Fire away.
and Noah hadn't played much, and they threw for 120 yards, then yeah.
They're ripping him, and he's arguing with them.
Football is a team sport, and the team won 48-31 and had 314 passing yards.
With 2 terrible turnovers in the red zone.
And Noah had a touchdown catch. Noah was part of it. Like I said, had Noah caught that one that Nate threw behind him, he would have had close to 100 yards receiving, and everything would have been fine. I mean, and so, yeah, that's just unfortunate, but I get a brother defending his brother. I understand.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but it puts his brother in a bad...
It doesn't help.
Yeah, it puts him in a bad position.
It doesn't help. No, that's true.
Because the people that are pissed off now at Chris Fant are going to be pissed off. No, I understand what you're saying, Pat, but he should just shut up.
That's what I'm saying. He should.
Yes.
And I could see Kirk not even wanting to honor this with a reply. I mean, this may be, if Kirk's asked this tomorrow, I'm not even going to go there. I mean... Because Kirk has had to deal with this at times before. I mean, this seems to always be, there's certain players. I remember when fans were just outraged that Nico Law wasn't playing. And now Fant's case is different because he is proven. But I think a lot of this is based on the preseason hype. And he still had to come out and do this year. And part of being a full, well-rounded tight end at Iowa is blocking. A lot of blocking in the trenches. And I don't think that's Noah's strength. And if that's not his strength, then they're going to take him out. I don't think Noah's out a lot when they're throwing the ball. He's usually in on throwing plays. I mean, he seems to be. So, I don't know. It almost seems like they resent T.J. Hawkinson's success. I mean, in a way. I mean,
yeah, maybe. I don't.
Because T.J.'s impacting how much Noah gets the ball. It's not only natural. If you got another tight end who's really, really good, that's going to impact how much Noah gets the ball.
T.J.'s open, and T.J. catches the ball.
And he's open a lot more. I mean, so I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll be brought. I have a feeling this will be brought up tomorrow.
It probably will.
I just hope nobody in the media writes about it today. I just hope they don't.
Well, you know they're going to.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to touch this. We'll see. I
guarantee you.
Again, 48 points, folks. You know, and over 300 yards.
And it's hard to write something when you don't give the coaches a chance to react to what was said on. So I may write something tomorrow if Kirk addresses it. Of course I would, but I'm not doing it now until the coaches get a chance to respond to an angry brother tweeting.
Yeah.
But you're right. I have a feeling a couple people in the media will take this as a chance to, because this will be a great chance to get clicks and what have you. And I ain't touching it.
Twitter's it's just wrecked everything. I mean, from here to you got world leaders tweeting against each other. It's wrecked everything, and it's still. Twitter makes no money. Twitter loses money.
Yeah, that I don't know, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I don't understand how it can continually lose money. But
I know
somebody's obviously pouring the money.
Well, because the CEO's making. What's he make? The CEO.
They make money, but I mean, everybody makes money. But then at the end of the thing, they lose it, according to them.
But then eventually, don't they go out of business?
You would think.
You would think.
And it doesn't seem, but who knows? Anything? Are you still with us, Randy?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I did see one other thing on here as I was sitting here reading it and listening to you guys, and Willie Fant made a comment. I'm sure it's easy for a good defense like Wisconsin to stop a subpar Iowa offense, especially when you don't play the best offensive player on your team.
That's inflammatory.
And then somebody replied to him and said, maybe you should take some notes from A.J. Epinez's dad.
I like that too.
Yeah,
it's inflammatory.
It's just unfortunate, and like I said, I hope my media colleagues don't jump on this, but we'll see.
I wish it didn't happen. I hope it doesn't cause any problems. But we'll see.
I don't think it's going to impact anything Kirk does.
No, I can't see it. That's just not the way he operates.
No, we're going to need Noah Saturday to have a good game, and I bet that he does.
Yeah, we need all the guns that we can fire.
We do.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for taking my
call.
call.
Randy, you bet.
All right, bye.
But yeah, that's just unfortunate. So you're thinking some in the Iowa media will write about this?
Yeah.
Maybe they will. I think they will. But that's exactly what they want. And I hope
that they don't. I hope they give
I can't do this until Kirk has a chance to.
Yeah, well, and I agree with you. I mean,
I
I'm
do
not,
too.
but
So, yeah,
I
if
mean,
anyone's
the
looking
fact
for-
of the matter is, even we're discussing this thing. This guy is going off. His brother's just going off. I mean, I'm looking at the tweets and Jesus.
It could be worse. He could be playing tight end at Nebraska.
Hello.
Hey, morning, guys.
Hey. Morning.
Hey, speaking of tight ends, I don't know if you guys noticed that Drew Cook got in for a little bit.
Oh, he did? I did not.
Oh, I didn't see
on
that.
Special teams or?
No, he was in blocking on, I think, the last rushing touchdown.
Okay, I did not notice that.
How did he do?
Yeah. He made a block.
Great.
God, was he in for Noah Fant? Oh, God, if he was, watch out. But
Yeah.
I kid. No, I did not notice that. I'll have to. Thanks for sharing that with me.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, the other thing, I don't know, did you see or go to PJ Fleck's press conference?
No, I did not.
My God, that would get tiring if you were a junior high team. He's exhausting his raw.
He is. He really is exhausting.
Did he have anything decent to say? Or
He's compared the
No,
loss
it's
to touching a hot stove.
Yeah, it's a bunch of sayings and rowing the boat, keeping your oars.
Well,
in the
and what he
water.
said about the hot stove is you got to live and learn. You only touch it so many times you get burned, and they're still touching the hot stove, and they're learning not to do that. Everything he says is to buy patience. That's what he needs right now because he knows his team's not very good, and he needs time. And that's what everything he does is just to help him provide patience and trust and a cushion for himself. It's like everything he does is kind of revolves around him. Now, I didn't agree with Jeff Horner. I don't know if you saw this caller. Jeff Horner ripped PJ for he leads his team out onto the field when they come out on the field. That's nitpicking. I mean, I don't have a problem. Nick Saban leads his team out. I mean, I don't have a problem with the head coach running out ahead of his team.
Not at all.
That seems to be a little nitpicking. Jeff Horner just ripped him on Twitter for just being an attention seeker, and I think that's a little bit too much, but, it's Twitter.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
I don't care about that.
And I actually believe, what he's saying, that you got to be patient because they do have a lot of young players. What I want to know is what happened to all the juniors and seniors.
That's a good question.
I mean,
I don't
felt
know.
like Minnesota was, really bad under, Peter Griffin and the guy before him.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened? Did they leave?
Well, I think a lot of that was roster upheaval due to all the stuff going on with coaching changes, a lot of different stuff I think caused and then I think PJ maybe got rid of some players when he got there, and he's putting his full stamp on the program. The problem is if you're going into year 3 asking for patience, I mean, they got to start winning next year. I mean, Kirk won in his 3rd year at Iowa, and the situation at Iowa was worse than it was at Minnesota when PJ took over for a 9-4 coach. So, yeah, he's got patience this year. I'll give him that. But next year, he can't be going 4-8 and 5-7 and saying, hey, we're still young, we need to win. You can only get so much time to rebuild a program at the Big Ten level this now. You get probably 3 to 4 years at the most.
Yeah, my son lives up there in the Twin Cities, and he says they're just a total non-entity.
Yeah.
In their public consciousness.
Which is too bad, because it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, but if you don't win, especially a city that's got pro teams, there's so much other things.
That's the problem.
There's so much other things for Minnesota to do with the Vikings and the Timberwolves and the Twins and the hockey team. Or do they still have a hockey team there? They don't, do they? They don't have the North Stars there anymore. Aren't they in Texas?
So, yeah, Minnesota Wild.
Minnesota Wild. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm just shows how much I follow hockey.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to do, so there's a lot more competition, which I guess sometimes can be good when you're losing because people don't pay as attention. Like when Iowa loses, I mean, look at here. We got a 4-1 Iowa team on the verge of being ranked, and there's nothing but controversy because one of the parents of one of the star players is upset. That shows you how much focus is on the Iowa football team.
Yeah. Well, it was a great game. I thought it was a little hairy at times, but it was fun to watch.
It was.
Can't wait for the next one. I think Indiana's tough. I think they're a lot tougher than most of the Iowa fans will give them credit for. Again, they have no defense as usual, but they can score.
They can score.
It could be a track meet.
I think Iowa may need to score 4 touchdowns to win this game.
You think that'll do it?
I think so. I've got Iowa winning maybe 38-24, 38-27, something like that.
I think that sounds about right.
So we shall see.
Hope you all right. Anyway, love the show, guys.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for the call.
But
Anything else that you can think of?
No. I'm trying. No.
Hello.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the same along the same lines as you guys. They're just seeing any potential money from the NFL getting smaller with every snap that he doesn't play.
And I don't think they know all about Noah Fant.
And Noah's got some limitations to his game.
He does.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I wonder if Noah knew his brother and father were going to go off on Twitter and gave him his blessing, or if they just did it without his consent, and now he's going to have to deal with it. I mean, it's just unfortunate. I don't think it accomplishes anything.
Yeah, and it takes away from a victory too.
That true?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know,
and it minimizes T.J. Hawkinson's development, I think. It's about more than Noah Fant, but for the family, it's not about more than Noah.
That's right.
I get that. I understand the family part of it, but he's playing a team sport, and that's, I don't know. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah. And, I mean, I didn't get to watch much of the game just because I was watching another game of the, at the same time, which kind of sucked. But what bits and pieces I did get to see, Iowa played outstanding.
And let me go the other way, too, that I got to watch some of the Iowa State game, and that quarterback looked terrific.
He did.
Yeah. And, yeah, he's going to be a damn good player in the future. I think a lot of it had to do, though, is Oklahoma State didn't know how to play against
Their defense is terrible.
Well, that's for
Because
sure.
until he went in on that second series, he's had 2 snaps.
I mean, nobody plays defense in the Big 12.
No, they don't.
Nobody plays defense in the Big 12. But this kid was a good recruit out of Arizona. No, he was.
He's got some wheels, and I thought he threw some really nice passes,
And
too.
Kyle Kemp will probably never start another game, and the other guy, Zeb Norland, will probably transfer. He's only a sophomore. I mean, that would be my guess, because he's from Georgia. He probably doesn't want to sit behind. I think Brock Purdy has arrived now, and it's going to be hard to beat him out after that type of
Well, he looked fantastic.
Now, he may come out next week and completely lay an egg, so we'll see. I mean, it's still a developing situation, but quarterback.
Yeah, I hope not. I think I saw earlier this morning West Virginia opened up as a 6-point favorite.
That seems about right. They're not very good on defense.
Well, and what I think I watched most of the fourth quarter against Kansas, and their offense did not look good.
Isn't this
Kansas
game in Ames?
Put some pressure on them, and yeah, the game is in Ames.
That's why I give Iowa State a good chance. I think it's going to be a good. I wouldn't be surprised if either team won. I mean, I think it's going to be a real competitive matchup.
And if I remember right, I think Greer's going to come in a little bit banged up. He was looking pretty slow in the last few minutes of that fourth quarter.
Really? So, I expect a high-scoring, fun game to watch.
I don't know.
In the Big 12? No.
Hey, Iowa State's defense is giving up 24 points a game. It was down to 20 before Saturday.
So
Iowa State's got a good defense.
Yeah, it's good, but 24. I mean, like I said, if they give up only 6 more than their average of 30, a 34-30, that's a shootout. That's what I think we're going to see.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep. But overall, I thought from what little bit I saw, Iowa played a damn good game. Their defense stepped up big in the times that they needed.
That's a good way to put it. Yep.
You know, it's just another typical Iowa game.
Yeah, I've got no complaints. I mean, and like I said, the fans, that's personal. That's something. Yep. So, I mean, like I said, it's just unfortunate that it's coming after a 48-.
Yeah. Yeah, 17-point win on the road in the Big Ten. I will take that 100 times out of 100.
With over 300 yards passing.
Yep.
So, I mean, the coaches are doing their job.
Yep.
Yep, that's right. Well, that's all I got.
All right.
Boys, so
Thank
have a
you.
good one.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for the call. We do appreciate it. Anything else, boys? Cap, you got any last thoughts?
Are you going to respond to Chris and Willie Fant?
Are you going to rip them?
That's stupid.
Are you going to rip them?
It's ridiculous. No, yes. Because it makes Noah look like a pussy, and that he's at odds, which he's not.
But it also makes you think that Noah's bitching and whining to his family, and maybe he is.
Maybe he is, but it makes no difference. They should just shut up. It puts Noah Fant in a bad light. It really does. And
I don't think it's fair to T.J. Hawkinson.
No.
Because it's implying that he shouldn't be playing as much as he is. And
who dubbed him the best? I mean, you're the best until you're not the best.
We're talking. He made third team All Big Ten last year, I think. Or no, did he maybe only make honorable mention? I can't remember. But it was the preseason AP award. That was what this is all. I think it's funny, like I say. Sports writers never know anything until you need them to push your narrative. Then they're the source. And so
once again, I go to my mother.
So we'll see. If this will probably be asked to Kirk tomorrow, especially if some media people write about it today, because we can't get Kirk's. I mean, I'm not going to call Steve Rowe and, hey, can I get a comment from Kirk talking about being...
No, and nor should you.
I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do it. I don't care if it runs in any other paper.
And nor should you.
I'm not doing it until... And if Kirk brings it up tomorrow and dismisses it, I'll write about that because you have to because it's news. But I am not pushing this narrative right now without getting the Iowa coaches' version of it. And they may not want to give their version of it.
They may not.
I won an award in 1983, Media Market disc jockey or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my mom, and she said, well, it's not Major Market.
Well, there you go.
Not sure what that has to do with anything, but
because you're the best until you're not.
Oh, but yeah, I just they're buying into all that hype, and they're buying in. Ironically, they're buying into the success that he had with these same coaches last season.
Yeah,
I mean it's just unfortunate. We're not even halfway through the season yet, and I don't know.
Social media
does make you appreciate Epi Epinesa.
It sure does.
Because he gets it.
Does.
He gets it, and Epi gets the fact that part of the reason AJ doesn't play quite as much as some fans want him to is because there's a fifth-year senior and a fourth-year junior in front of him who are both really, really good.
Epi's going to get plenty of snaps this year and more next year.
He'll be a full-time starter next year. I mean, but they'll still take him out some because they rotate.
Yeah.
Chauncey Golston's starting to play some now, and he deserves some
and
play.
He played well,
Yeah,
too.
he did, and it's just this
I'm
is
with
just
you.
the same argument.
You got a good season going.
But this has been brewing, though, because I wrote something a couple of weeks ago and about how I think Noah's success and his reputation is making it easier for T.J. Hawkinson to find success. And somebody from Fant's family said, unbelievable that you're ignoring the obvious problem that they're not playing. It was just, I could tell then, this thing's brewing.
Yeah.
And now it's erupted, and just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. And
Anything else?
No, I'm done.
All right.
We got Iowa Basketball Media Day in less than in exactly 3 hours.
Well, I am looking.
So you really have 3 hours.
So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about that on Wednesday. And all right. AllHawkeyes.com. Get your subscription this day.
1630 KCJJ on TuneIn and YouTube. Powered by